Ian, can you hear me?
Hi, mate. Can you hear me?
Oh, fantastic. So Ian Abrahams is my next guest, TalkSport superstar, more commonly known as the Moose. How are you this evening?
Yeah, I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, we're getting there. So I started at 1 o'clock this afternoon. So we've been going. My maths isn't good enough to quite work out how long we've gone and how long we've got to go. But in a way, that's quite nice that I don't know how long there is to go. So ignorance is bliss.
First of all, we're going to say how amazing you are. Everything you do.
Oh, I'm not sure about that, but thank you so much indeed for coming on. Obviously, a big fan of your work. So it'd be fantastic to find out, when did you first start? How did you get into doing what you're doing?
Right. So when did I first start? When did I first want to actually do it?
You're both, really. Was it always wanted to do? And what was your first break? Where did you work before TalkSport?
Always wanted to do it from the age of about 5 or 6. So probably talk about mid 1970s. We had great commentators and reporters, the likes of Brian Moore, John Motson, Barry Davis, Gerald Sinstadt, Hugh Johns, people like that. These are names that maybe not everyone will know. And yeah, I always wanted to be a football commentator or football reporter. And that was my goal throughout school, the university. It was just to make sure that I had everything mapped out of what I needed to do, and then I just needed some luck, really, to get into it. My first break came in 1992 when I was working throughout that summer. The Premier League had just started. I'd written off to ITN Radio, or IRN at the time, as it was called, for some work experience, just to work throughout the summer and work at a radio station, because LBC in London was in the same building. And one Sunday, when the sports editor was at the Barcelona Olympics, he needed someone to work on the desk, and he had 4 or 5 permanent freelancers he always used, and none of them were available for one reason or another. So I said, listen, I'll do it. I mean, apart from your stuff in Barcelona, there's not really much else to do. And I said, listen, if I do all right, give me some more shifts, but you pay me rather than me work for nothing. And if it isn't, then we've lost nothing. And I obviously did all right, because he did pay me after that, and I got more shifts and started reporting on football for them as well. And from there on, it sort of snowballed from there.
Yeah. And when did you start at TalkSport?
Yeah, right. So I worked at ITN Radio for a couple of years, and then I worked for a sports agency called Sports Media, where I covered different events all over the country, sometimes all over the world. And then became sports editor at LBC in London, which was then called News Direct, in 1996. Stayed there till 2000. Worked at ITN's version of the Sky News, or the BBC News channel, for a couple of years, and then started at TalkSport in 2002, 2003.
Oh, incredible. And how much have you enjoyed it since then? It seems to be incredible, the journey that you've been on and the events you've covered. Just how proud and privileged are you to be doing what you have been doing these last few years?
Yeah, I mean, it's a massive privilege. I mean, I'm doing what I've always wanted to do. I really enjoyed every minute of it. I met some incredibly famous people, but I also met some really brilliant people who I know very well, who maybe aren't that famous, and in some respects they're the better ones to know. I've been all around the world. I've been to 4 European Championships in 2008, 3 European 3 European Championships in 2008, 2012, and 2016, and 4 World Cups, 06, 10, 14, and 18. So yeah, I've had some, and Commonwealth Games in Australia as well, and various European football matches around Europe. No, I've had a brilliant time. It's been absolutely amazing, but it has been a massive privilege to do it.
Yeah. How's your job changed during that time? I mean, TalkSport has evolved and got bigger, I would say. It's very big now, isn't it? So how has your job changed during that time? And the social media impacted that as well, obviously?
Yeah, social media's impacted it a bit. I wouldn't say massively, apart from the fact you get more abuse because more people kind of like look at what you do now on social media. It's changed beyond recognition. I mean, the equipment I used 32 years ago, even the equipment I used 20 years ago at TalkSport, now it's ridiculous. I mean, when I started doing this, if I went to, for example, let's say Southend against Boreham Wood, and did interviews with Kevin Mayer and Luke Garrett afterwards, I would have to go back and feed down or send back down the line in real time those interviews. So if you spoke to the managers for 5 minutes and the players for 3 or 4 minutes, it would take nearly 20 minutes to send all that back to the studio. Now, as you know, I do an interview with Kevin Mayer. By the time Kevin's walked about 10 yards away from me, I've emailed it back to the office, and within a couple of minutes they have it in their computer system. It's almost immediate, and that was not the case when I started 20 years ago. I remember going to the World Cup in Germany in 2006, and I would carry around with me a portable satellite dish, and I'd have to how can I describe it? I'd have to set it up and try and locate by moving the dish around where the satellite was above the earth, to then do an interview on TalkSport. Now, look at us now. You're in your studio. I'm at home, and it's real time. There's no equipment bar my mobile phone. And I always said to people, the most important bit of equipment I take with me anywhere now is my mobile phone charger.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what else I take, what else I might or might not need. I have to make sure my phone's always got charge on it. So my mobile phone charger is always the most important thing that I take with me.
Yeah, and obviously we're here today. We're raising money for mental health and raising awareness about it. And I know you touched on it there a little bit jokingly, but social media can be tough at times, can't it? So if you do ever get a bit of stick, how do you sort of deal with that and not let it get to you too much?
I'm really lucky. I've always had a really, really thick skin. And I always take the view that if, first of all, it's not like, for example, you're not going to abuse me on social media. I know you. I'd be really hurt if you abused me on social media, or if anyone I knew abused me. So
Yeah.
people that are abusing me on social media, I don't know them. They are.
Yeah.
I know the term keyboard warriors is used, all the time, and it's true. And there are some people I know, because they've been stupid enough to come up to me at football matches and go, "Oh, I had a go at you last week on Twitter, but it's really nice to meet you. I think you're great." Well, why would you do that? I mean,
Yeah.
why would you? It's only because that I can't come around to your house, or wouldn't go around to your house, or I don't know you, that you feel that you can have a go at me. And I've always kind of taken the view from a very young age that what's the phrase? Sticks and stones can break your bones, but words can never hurt you. And I know for some people that's not the case. I know for some people, they take to heart, and they're built differently and think differently. But I've always had a really thick skin. I just block everyone that is rude or abusive. If people want to have a chat with me on social media, that's fine. I'll chat with anybody. I'll debate with them. And yeah, I can be wrong. I'm not saying that I'm always right on social media or in what I say or in how I report things. But all I ever ask is for people to be respectful. And once they're not respectful, that's it. I mean,
Yeah.
block them and move on. I mean, they're not going to not going to impinge on my life in any way, shape, or form. But I realise obviously that not everyone has
Yeah.
that ability to be able to sort of go, listen, I've got a thicker skin than that. That's not going to hurt me at all.
No, I think that's the best way to be. But I'm always impressed with your social media. How many pictures you have of everybody when it's their birthdays? I mean, how many? I think you mentioned it to me once at Notts County, but you have an incredible number of, ridiculous number of photos on your phone that I couldn't believe that you. So isn't it over 100,000 or something?
Yeah, I have way too many. I run 122,000 pictures on my phone. I generally never delete I only ever delete it if I absolutely have to, and I generally don't absolutely have to. And people always say to me, so let's say, for example, it's your birthday. right? And I want to say, happy birthday to you on Twitter. I think it's a nice thing. I mean, some people
Yeah,
think
it is nice. No, it is nice.
some people, and actually, I'm not going to name any of the footballers. Last night, for example, it was somebody's birthday this week on, and I wished them a happy birthday on Twitter, and I WhatsApp them because, although these days having the phone numbers of players and managers is generally, with the advancement of press officers, not really that important. There are still quite a few players and managers whose phone numbers I've got. So I just WhatsApp this person and said, listen, happy birthday, have a great one. Because I don't think they were on Twitter anyway, so they probably wouldn't have seen it. And he got back to me and said, yeah, brilliant, thanks for that. And I hope you're all well and we can meet up soon. And I said, absolutely, that'd be fantastic. But I think it's quite nice. And the amount of players actually who will come up to me and say, oh, I saw you wish me a happy birthday this week, last week, or whatever on Twitter. Thanks for that. I think it's just nice to
No,
acknowledge.
it's very nice. And the guy I've seen you do the goal shout outs as well, which is a nice touch. But if you've got 122,000, did you say? So does it not take you ages to find these people when it's their birthday? If you've got, well, what's the secret to it?
Okay, I'll let you know what my secret is, right? So I have two secrets. First of all, I don't have them backed up on any kind of file. So I don't have for example, let's say it's your birthday. I don't have a file anywhere of pictures with me and you. I know when I've had a picture taken with you. I know when I've had a picture taken with anybody. If you say to me now, right, it's let's pick Kevin Mayer. It's Kevin's birthday tomorrow, right? I know exactly the last time I was down at Southend, it was for the 3-2 defeat to Hartlepool. So I've definitely had a picture taken with him then because I interviewed him afterwards. Before that, Maidenhead last year when they won 4-1. So, and I went to a golf day that John Still put on at Rickmansworth as well last September. So I always know even if not the exact date, I know the month that I've had a picture taken with someone. And generally as well, the ones that the shout outs I give are to people that I've posted a picture with before. So if necessary, I could always just search on Twitter for them. But I know exactly when they are, so I don't need to keep files. I mean,
That's incredible. You must have some storage on your phone as well. I mean, mine kind of struggles sometimes, so that must be an incredible amount that you've got on there. So,
I never did, because you never know when it might come in useful. I mean, it's always like for example, I've done an interview with Marco Silva at Fulham, and spoke to him at great lengths about Jose Mourinho. Now, because he was the first Portuguese manager to come to this country. So if Jose suddenly decided to quit football management and we needed to do a big piece about it at TalkSport, whether it's this week, next year, or whenever, I could always say, well, listen, I've got some really good stuff from Marco Silva about that, so we don't need to go into him again. And I've always got it on my phone, so it's always there. So I don't delete anything.
No, it's incredible, and it always comes across your passion for the game. I know you've come down to Root Hall a few times, and you just like football, don't you? And it's just nice to see that you're not always at the Premier League grounds and all the top games. You quite often watch Boreham Wood, I know, and you come down, you just sort of enjoy watching all football, which is nice that you've maintained that kind of enthusiasm.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't just think that football is about the Premier League or top 6 clubs in the Premier League. It's about everybody. And people say that non-league football is real football. It is. I mean, the way that the higher up the footballing pyramid you go, the harder it is to get to know players and managers, the access. So, like for example, the players and managers I know now in the Premier League, generally I'd have got to know when they were in lower league football. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, for example, take Eddie Howe as an example. I first went and met Eddie Howe at Bournemouth when they were in League One. Kept in contact with him and Jason, got a good relationship with them. Now they're managing Newcastle. I didn't know when they were in League One they were going to manage Newcastle. They might not have ever managed anyone above League One level. Take Liam Manning, who I know very well at Oxford, whose birthday is today. I've sent him out a birthday tweet.
You found the picture.
Yeah, I don't know where Liam Manning's careers will take him. He's 38. In 10 years' time, I don't know where he'll be. 20 years' time, I don't know where he'll be. It doesn't matter. I mean, I always say to people that I enjoy meeting and getting to know players all levels, at all ages, and whether or not they go on and be like Harry Kane. When I first met him, he was on loan at Leicester, and then played for Spurs in the Europa League. There was no indication at all then he was going to become one of the country's greatest ever goal scorers, one of the world's greatest players, and captain of England. It didn't matter to me, what mattered was just getting to know him and getting a relationship going with him. And so it happens he was successful. But for every player like him, there's players that maybe don't play above non-league or League One or League Two level, but that doesn't make my relationship with them any more or less important.
Yeah. Where are you at tomorrow? Where are you watching tomorrow?
Tomorrow I'm actually at a Premier League game. I'm at Bournemouth against Wolves. So Gary O'Neill's return to the Vitality, which will be interesting. I mean, I know Gary from before West Ham when he was at Portsmouth, and I know he'll be. I hate using the word humble because it's always used in football, but I know he'll be pretty humble about his return to the Vitality. But at the moment, things aren't going well for Bournemouth, who sacked him, and things are going okay for Wolves, who obviously employed him. And I think he's a terrific young coach. And I'm looking forward to that game tomorrow. I look forward to every game. I mean, I approach every game in exactly the same manner, to do my best to paint pictures with words, because generally the people that are going to be listening to you tomorrow aren't going to be able to see what I'm seeing, and I want them to go home and when they go home, if they watch it on TV, to watch it and go, that's exactly how that guy described it earlier. And it doesn't matter whether or not, I mean, I was told today that for the FA Cup first round on Friday week, I think it is, or Friday 2 weeks, I'm going to be against Walsall. I'm so excited about that tie. And I'm going to be, doing exactly the same thing on that night at Sheppey as I am tomorrow at Bournemouth. It doesn't matter whether it's Premier League, Championship, League One, League Two, National League. Doesn't matter, National League, Conference South, North. Doesn't matter where it is, what it is. It's to me, it's important to be able to do the job, so that, as I say, you paint pictures with words, which is what I've always loved about radio. I used to go to West Ham in the 70s, 1970s, and I used to listen to two people that I really made me want to get into radio, as opposed to doing, say, written work. And they were Peter Jones and Brian Butler, two names that, again, people may not know, but they were absolute best. BBC was the only place to listen to sport at the time, and they were the two best exponents of that, and they painted pictures with words. And I hope that I do that every time I go to a game, every time I do an interview or a report on anything.
No, you definitely do. And just finally, what are you making of West Ham this season? I know they're a club still close to your heart. So you pleased with how it's going there?
Yeah, no, I am. I mean, I'm pleased with David Moyes because he's a man who's come under a lot of fire, really, from people. And, he's one of the good guys in the game. He really is. And, to deliver a trophy last year for West Ham was incredible. I've said for many years, I was there in 1980 as a fan when West Ham beat Arsenal in the cup final. And I've always said I'd happily sign up for West Ham to get relegated if they could win a trophy. And of course, they don't have relegated now. They won a trophy, and to be there in Prague in June. And actually, I mean, for years I've seen, captains and managers and fans and press officers of clubs that I know really well lift trophies, and be glad for them. It's great to do that. But I've always thought it'd be really brilliant to do it, to be there as a journalist and, watch West Ham lift a trophy, to know what that felt like. And, I wasn't actually working that night, but I had a press pass. So I went down to the mix zone, which is where we meet the players afterwards. You obviously know.
Yeah.
People listening to this may not actually know. And so I went down to the mix zone afterwards, and the guy from UEFA who was running the mix zone, I don't know who he was. He was an English guy, and he knew I was for some reason. And because I didn't know I was going to be at the game, in the press box, I was wearing not a West Ham top, but it was a claret top with the West Ham badge on. And I walked into the mix zone, and the guy said to me, "Oh, Moose, you must be so happy." And I went, "I'm absolutely thrilled. I have to declare now, I will be completely professional this evening. I'm going to be in Big Jarrah Bone, and I'm probably going to get loads of selfies, get Declan Rice to sign my press pass." And he went, "Do what you like. It's your night." And I thought that was absolutely brilliant. I didn't have to sort of kind of pretend it was absolutely great. But no, it's brilliant. But it's at all levels. I mean, West Ham's success in June, I would say would mirror Southend's being saved by the amazing work that you've done, and everybody else at Southend has done in hopefully saving the club over the last few months. I think you deserve an immense amount of credit for that. I know how difficult things have been down at Southend. I know the job you do, and I know that people in the game watch what you report and watch what you write, and hold a lot of sway by that. So you deserve a lot of credit for being on that story as well.
Oh, thank you very much. It means an awful lot coming from you in particular.
I interviewed Luke Garrard.
I know, and you mentioned that was very odd. I'm surprised these people know who I am, and you sent it to me, and I was like, what?
Pre-season friendly. I think it was against Brentford. And I said, what was it? Because at that time, I think Southend had a court appearance coming up.
Yeah, it was still up in the air.
Touch and go whether or not they were going to survive. And I said to Luke, just finally, what's your thoughts on Southend? Because, they may or may not even, start the season. If they do, who knows what's going to happen. And he turned around, he said to me, well, from what I read from yourself, he said,
yeah.
I think that things are obviously up in the air, and I look at what he writes, what Chris writes all the time. I sent it to you. You thought, how the hell does Luke Garrard know who I am? But
yeah,
everyone knows who you are. The work you do is incredible. The charity work you do is incredible, and it's nice that I can count you as a friend as well.
Oh, fantastic! A brilliant note to finish on. It's Boreham Wood at Southend on the 28th. If you're free, I don't know whether or not you're at a game that day, but if you can make it, then that'll be fantastic to see you, and I'll get you a drink. So thank you so much for coming on. It's a real honour to have you on our stream, and thank you for your kind words and expertise.
No problem. Anytime. I hope that I haven't bored too many people tonight.
No, not at all. It's been a lot of really nice comments, so it's been really nice to see, and huge thank you. So thank you very much indeed.
Brilliant. Take care, mate.